Welcome to the Team GPT podcast. This is your guest host, Dan O'Hara. Camera's over there. Great stuff. We have a couple questions coming from
anonymous
via Instagram, other forms of social media.
Syed's behind the camera.
Nice.
So a couple questions. First question is, if an athlete is struggling with an exercise, at what point would you regress it?
I guess I'll jump in here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to cue it first, see if they can fix it. So it should be something that's simple, like we'll use like a knees collapsing in a squat. If we can tell them to, push their knees out or spread the floor or open their legs or anything like that to get them to do it correctly, then we'll just do that. And then we just have to work on the skill of actually doing that more often so we don't have to cue it every time, whether it be a strength issue, like maybe through their glutes where they can't keep it open, or just it's a technical issue that they need to kind of remind themselves about. But if I can't fix it pretty much immediately through cueing, then we'll regress or change some kind of a stimulus. So like we're using squats, and then maybe we'll put like a mini band around their knees to give them something to actually think about and force out against.
External rotating, yeah.
But if they can't fix it within a few simple cues very quickly, then we'll change and go to something that they can do well.
Yeah. And I think like one of the important aspects of that is identifying why the exercise isn't being performed correctly or performed efficiently. Is it the weight's too heavy? Are they not reinforcing the important parts of the exercise? Stuff like that. And I think earlier is better in terms of what point. And even really any exercise is good to address early and make sure like they reinforce those good patterns. Like for example, one of my lifters, Carson, is a very strong athlete but kept hurting his back doing back accessories and stuff like that. So I had him send me a video of him doing barbell rows, and he was, I think you remember this, he kept hurting his back. Him doing barbell rows, and he was literally like doing 365, like yanking it off the ground like a Penley row, and just it's bad. So we started doing tempo rows with literally like 95 pounds.
Yeah, I literally asked you like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Did you start at 365?
Well, I would
immediately like, I got this 365.
Yeah, I would say like I would be like 4x6, and he asked me like what the RP is. I like generally heavy but controlled, and then he's like, I don't know, my back hurts every deadlift day, or my back hurts the next day. Well, send me a video, and he's like giving himself herniated discs each rep.
Well, that's another question in itself. Is do you think? Was he like a beginner lifter at this point? Or
No, he's an advanced lifter. He's Wilksed above 450, so I mean like he's qualified for the Arnold technically.
Gotcha. Do you think using RP is good to use for a new movement, to like prescribe that for an accessory movement? Do you think people like?
I think RP. I don't know. I think RP is trying not to get too far away from the question, but I think RP is really dependent on the lifter.
Right.
If you have a lifter who has really good self-control,
right.
And stuff like that, I think RP can be really good, especially for like variation movements or accessories and stuff like that. But if like you have a lifter who constantly struggles with listening to the RPE and overexerting,
it feels like
overexerting.
Yeah.
It's probably best to give him some percentages or numbers and stuff.
Well, that's because I always talk with Ryan about that. Is like, what's the best way to give someone a new movement, have them judge what weight to use? Because like you have no idea what someone's max fucking 12 rep barbell row is. But yeah. So your suggestion was like, if they hit 8 reps at a certain weight, go up. If they hit 12 and it's hard, go like stay the same weight or go down. So like it's a way of auto-regulation. That's not. Cause
I mean, for a new movement, I would tell everyone to start light no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
And make sure the movement's done well. And then what I'm looking for is like I want the exercise that I'm giving someone that they can do well, but it's still difficult. So what I mean by that is like a push-up, for example. If you can do a set of 10 on the ground with perfect form, Well, then that's probably too easy. So let's elevate your feet, make it a little bit harder, or
At a band.
or vice versa. Like if they can't do that on the floor because maybe they're losing their core, or they're just not strong enough for the upper body to be able to do the full range of motion, we can elevate their hands and do something like that to make it a little bit easier. I want them to be able to complete the movement as it should be done, but still struggle in those last couple reps to be able to finish.
Yeah.
So like if you leave like a gap of say 8 to 10 reps and like let's start off light. If you get 10, well then it was too light. Let's go up.
Yeah.
Like my goal is actually for them to hit sets of 8 with that. But if they hit 10, it gives them a built-in way of like, oh, that was easy. Let me go up. But again, it goes back to it has to be done correctly. Like just because you did 10 reps, if it looks terrible, did that help anything?
Is that better than a lighter set with better form?
Right.
Yeah.
And there's
Generally, it's not.
there's a little bit on both sides. Like it depends on the exercise, but there's a little like you'll have some leeway on form on things, especially for each person's form is going to be a little bit different. But you don't want to see just ugly form. Like if it looks like shit, it's probably shit. So let's do something else.
Also, if you like hurt yourself doing a curl or something like that sucks. Like if you ruined your entire training cycle because you went too heavy on a stoop, like not a stoop, no, because curls are sick, but like it's like something that like is not as beneficial and just kind of ruins your training. That's not ideal. I always err towards I'd rather someone start light and I'm like, oh, that was really easy. You're like, all right, next week we'll add a set, or next week we'll progress from that. There's always someone to progress, rather than having someone risk injury and go too heavy on something.
Yeah, I mean, I think a problem that comes with that though is like accessories are super important, and so like if you're creating an environment where you're always saying like take it easy on these, you don't want to hurt yourself for the entire training cycle. It kind of makes lifters get lazy, and that's just what I've experienced. So like if you emphasize for a new movement, controlled but tough is what I usually put it as, especially if they're struggling with form.
Right.
Like you want it to be crisp but heavy enough to where you finish your set and you're like, shit, that was hard.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, if you say the
I get
last
what
few
you're
reps
saying,
of the set should be challenging.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't die on the first 2 reps.
Well, going back to like RP, like I'm generally not a huge fan of using RP with people, but like I don't want your assistance work to be at 7.
Exactly.
I want your RP for assistance work to be like a 9 or a 10.
Yeah.
Maybe not a 10, maybe 9.5. But like it should be hard. Like you should not be finishing it and be like, oh, that was so easy. If it wasn't, then you're not training hard enough for that. And
Right.
it needs to be like, because it's especially like I said, if we're talking about assistance movements, you should be able to recover faster from it. It's a smaller movement. You should be able to get more out of it. If it's a supplemental movement, something a little bit bigger, like if it's a safety squat bar, maybe that's a little bit different. But like I said, if you're doing like bench over rows, it should be hard, but it should be hard done correctly.
That's the struggle. Is like, I mean, I think most of our programming in general, we give a lot of accessory movements and we introduce a lot of new movements. So judging on when to tell them to push and like making sure they're doing it correctly, because we're not getting, like, if we're doing like an online client, we're not getting videos of curls or like single leg RDL. Like I think the challenge, not the challenge, but like I always emphasize to start light to get the movement down, and then once I know they have it down, to push from there. But that's my approach to start.
Yeah. All right, next question. How do you develop rep schemes and sets based on a 1 rep max?
Depends what we're looking to do. If we're 25 weeks out from a meet, we're not really worried about taking 1 rep maxes, so we're not doing 1 by 1 or 5 by 1. We're doing probably 5 by 5 or 3 by 8, something like that. And then again, it still depends on what you're looking for. So if we're like really trying to be more in a hypertrophy block, really trying to build some muscle, then we're probably going to push 6 to 12 reps. I say 6, so I know a lot of people say more like 8 to 12, but 6 for like the bigger movements. Squat, bench. Generally, I don't write much more than like 5 or 6. But we'll do more sets. Where for the assistance work, yeah, we can go a little bit higher. Maybe like 12 to 20. As we get closer to meet, pretty standard of like dropping volume, upping intensity, but there's a kind of a range. Right? Like I think some people, we were talking about this the other day, where like why are certain rep schemes okay and other ones are weird? And I see like a lot of DUP people like will do like 4x9. If you give most people like a 3x9 workout, they freak out. Like 9. Why 9?
Yeah.
So like why is like 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, those are okay. But if I write a set of 4 or a set of 7 or a set of 9 or 11, people are like, yo, what's going on? What's the difference between a set of 4 and 5? It's not that big of a difference, so what's the problem? Just a way to progress or change things up a little bit. So sometimes we'll do like a 3x4 one week, and the next week it might be a 3x5, and like keep the weight, progress. But again, it depends on the goal, where we are in the program. Like I said, if we're trying to build strength, 6-10 weeks out from a meet, then we're not going to be doing a whole lot of sets of 10 to 12.
Yeah.
We're going to probably be in that like 3 to 5 range. As we get closer to the meet, we're going to do more singles.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't really care what your 1 max squat is 25 weeks out from a meet. Like if you can PR, I guess that's cool, but it doesn't matter at that point.
Well, I guess we can, based off this, at what point would you change a max in training? Like would you set percentages differently if someone hit like at a like absurdly high PR? Like at what point would you change it?
I don't anymore.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
I mean, that really depends on the lifter.
Yeah.
I think we can use me as an example. I've hit like sets on squat of like 5 at like 90%, but that doesn't really translate to a bigger 1 rep max. It just means I'm a better volume lifter than not. And so it really, like, that, based on that question, it really depends on the lifter for me, and I don't know if you've experienced the same thing.
Well, I was thinking more of the way of like if you were to hit a new 1 rep max in a training cycle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I used to adjust.
Yeah.
So I'd say like if we were working off a 500 max and you came in and hit 520, I would be like, oh, okay, we're going to bump up to 520.
Yeah.
And then the next whatever amount of time is based off 520. Every time I've done that, something's gone bad.
Yeah.
Because you hit it that one day, maybe everything was on that day. So what I've kind of gotten the mindset of like, until you can do it for 2 singles in the same day, we're definitely not going to change anything. And even then, we still might not change it.
Yeah.
And I don't see a problem. Like I said, if you hit a 20-pound PR, we can still work off of that old 500-pound number, and maybe everything's a little bit sub-maximal, but you're still getting the work in. You're probably getting better work in instead of trying to push to that new max all the time. Once we get to that end of a training cycle, so usually when you guys compete, or if we do a mock meet because you don't have a meet lined up right now, we'll reset after that.
Yeah.
But when we reset, now we're going back to like where the question is, now we reset the numbers to the new PR, but we're dropping back in intensity and going back to like 70% for sets of 6 to 8 or whatever. And, So like even though the 70% for sets of 6 to 8 might be 15 pounds heavier than it was last cycle, you can do it because it's still only 70%.
Yeah.
Right.
Where if
Is it really indicative?
Right. If you hit a 20-pound PR today and I make your next training day 20 pounds heavier, that might be rough.
That's what I think we're using some form of auto regulation is like we've been using like if take singles, and if the single feels good at like 85% push in the last few, or like I've been doing a lot of like even just like rep work, like if the last few sets feels good, go up on the last few triples just to like get some more intensity.
Right. We've been doing a little like a lot of what I've been doing if any of our lifters are listening, maybe this will make sense. I have one basically like in the main work, we have a day where the auto regulation is prescribed by me. So like everyone keeps asking about the ascending sets kind of thing. Where I say, okay, if you get 5 reps, stop, add depending on what the lift is and what lifter it is, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 2.5 pounds, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we start at, depending on the week, maybe 70%. You hit that for 5, that should be easy.
Yeah.
But now we add 5 pounds. Do it again. 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 One of our lifters the other day was like, that's going to be pretty hard. I said, I'm not expecting you to hit 5 every time.
Yeah.
If you do, you're going to end up hitting 5 at 87.5% of your max as the last set, which would be
The possibility
a great set. Like, I'd be really happy with that. That means, like, you clearly are getting stronger, but that would be very difficult. But as long as we're getting the volume in, but I'm forcing that auto regulation of like, if you get 5, you have to go up. There's no questions. You have to go up.
Yeah.
So, because we have some lifters that would hit 5 and just stay there.
Yeah.
So no, like, hit 5, stop, add the weight. So that's like forced auto regulation on my part. If you don't hit the reps, then you don't go up. On the other days, like I said, like the heavier days, like I'll say to you, okay, like if it feels good and you're moving it well, add some weight.
Yeah.
And that's more of the regulation on you, because some lifters will be like, nope, I'm good, I'm going to hit these today. Or some will go up a little bit, some will go up a lot.
Yeah.
I'll use two very different examples. Stephanie last night actually pulled 402. Mm-hmm. I told her on her before that, I said, okay, you could either chip to 393 or go right to 396 if you want. Knowing Stephanie, I knew she went to 393, and then she pulled it easily enough that I was like, yep, you have to go to 402. Where earlier in the day, Emily showed me a video for block pulls, and I said the same thing. Like, if it feels good, work up. I think I gave her a starting weight of like 255, and she ended up hitting 405.
Okay, it's aggressive.
But the 405 for the 2, she did a 405 double off a 4-inch block, and it looked easy. So I'm glad she went up aggressively, because my 255 number was clearly not even close to what she was capable of.
Love that.
But that's a different, like, everyone's different. Like, someone might not have gone up, someone else might have only gone to 275 and left a lot of weight in the bar. So that was her chance to auto-regulate herself, and she did a really good job of it. Stephanie still did a good job of, like, of saying to me, like, after the attempt before, she's like, I've got more. Yeah. She just was a little less aggressive, and that's fine. And then I made her go up more. So there's a little bit of both.
I think that way that you've been doing with us lately is the if you get 5 reps at 5 pounds is like a good way to teach someone how to auto-regulate, because they can gauge. I mean, like, what they actually can do, rather than using like being afraid of the weight or being the opposite and being like fuck this weight and then getting crushed by it. So it kind of like actually gives you a guideline to learn how to do that. So it's kind of a good way to teach it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Props to you.
Okay. Last question.
We don't transition well.
We
We'll put it on, like, a
It's
graphic.
not having the couch. It's just a little less comfortable.
True.
our ability to go off on tangents.
There it is.
Unmatched.
Yeah.
How do you? I don't like that. How do you feel about training at competition weight versus training below or above your weight class? This is a big question.
This is a fun question.
A lot of
highly debatable
feelings
question.
are about to come out right
All right,
now.
so I'll just jump right in because this drives me out of my mind. If you're training underweight, that's fine. I've told everyone, Matt Piscatelli today. Matt, good day today, national record
shout out to
deadlift.
you.
Good job.
This is going to come a couple weeks out after the whole thing.
Today, as in 2 weeks ago. Great job.
Yeah.
Anyway, Matt weighed in as a 93 kilo lifter. I think he said he weighed in at 91 kilos. So he had no worries about making weight. Flew down to Texas, had some barbecue, ate food, had a great time. Still weighed in, easily underweight. Set the American raw collegiate deadlift record at 672, right? 672. Just missed pulling 700. Got a little forward and dropped. Had some up and down, but it was fine because he was at weight the whole time, so we knew what he was capable of at that weight. He made weight, he was able to eat. But he doesn't need to fill out the class. Just because you're in the 93 doesn't mean you have to weigh 93.
Yeah.
Or if you're a 120, you don't have to weigh 120. In the long run, will it help you lift more weight? Probably. But if you're not going to set huge records or win championships, something like that, like lift where you feel comfortable at.
Right.
On the flip side, and this is the one that drives me nuts, is that if you're lifting above your weight class in training, it depending on how far above you are, it can really set us up for failure. So if you're 1% over, that's not a big deal. We can hit that weight pretty easily. But if you're 4 or 5% over your weight class, which is not uncommon, and you have to make a big cut, especially if you haven't cut before, how do you know how you're going to perform after that big cut? How do you know how you're going to feel with just not having as much food, not being as big? Maybe you're dehydrated because you had a water cut. And it's just another stressor. You want to be able to control as much as you can on the platform, and that's one thing that you can control is the way you're eating and drinking and taking care of yourself. And if you've been cutting for the last several weeks to try to make weight, that's tough. And I know some of our lifters are probably like, fuck you, Ryan, because I know some of us do it. But you're probably better off lifting as close to your class as possible.
Yeah.
The seminar that I did a couple years ago with Boris Chico, he talked about that. He said with his lifters, at least because he can control them more, if they come in overweight, you can go run until you make weight. I know I'm not going to be able to do that to some of you guys. You'll probably tell me to screw off and leave. But
Screw off is what I'm going to use.
yeah, I was being nice there. But if you're within a certain percent, like I said, if it's a couple percent off, you can probably make weight and it's probably okay. I think Chico said about 2 to 3% is all right, and that's not a lot of weight. You know, for a 93 guy, we're talking 5 to 6 pounds, and we'll use you right now. Like
That's a perfect example.
You're a 93. What do you weigh right now?
210, 209.
So you're like 95 right now. So you got to lose like 2 kilos in 2 weeks. I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because
I don't have to.
You don't
That's
have
the other
to.
thing, too.
Right, you don't have to.
Is
but
if that
you're-
changes based on
But you're
if you're
probably
qualifying?
going to.
I'm probably going to.
But yeah, I think people take too much. They get too worried about the weight class, and they cut to the weight class to perform, and maybe they don't perform up to their standard because they did cut.
Yeah.
And again, if you're setting records or winning championships, then cool. And I think we've talked about this before on this. Like, I don't want to see a lifter have to go into a caloric deficit and then do a water cut before a meet so they can make a certain weight, and then underperform after having a great training cycle.
Yeah.
And we saw that. We talked about this in one of the other podcasts when we went down to nationals for USA PL Raw Nationals in October. We had several lifters that cut, and then you got someone like Raphael who just ate pizza every day. And Raphael had
still doing it right now,
and he had the
probably pizza.
best meet of everyone. Like all of his third attempts were so easy. It's like amazing, and the difference was he wasn't cutting, and we had a lot of lifters that were cutting for that. So I personally don't like it. I know it's going to happen, but if it's going to happen, try to keep it in check where you don't have to do an aggressive water cut. Hopefully you can just do a slight caloric cut. Adam, that just competed at Collegiate Nationals, Adam cut a few pounds going into the meet, but Adam, several weeks out, cut his calories back a little bit and made weight no problem.
Yeah.
Like, that was fine. And it didn't affect his performance. But like I said, if you're cutting 5-6% of your body weight,
That's rough.
that's going to be a tough day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, touching on that, like, the big thing is, like, a lot of people don't realize that this is a hobby and you should enjoy it. And if you're not a top tier athlete, you know, competing, you know, for the podium or, you know, like a qualifying total in Wilkes doesn't really mean anything.
Stop cutting.
Yeah, there you go.
Eat that, you know. Like I think the first day I signed up with Ryan, I told him I refused to cut. I used to cut 20 pounds for fights, and it just I
He was a
hated
boxer,
life.
not just for fun.
No, street.
Street fights. I used to,
I also told him to eat a sandwich and go up a weight class.
He used to cut weight for street fights.
yeah,
He'd weigh in
where
before.
there were no official.
Where the
weights.
streets is tough.
But yeah, I mean that's a big thing, especially like I take on. I have you know some experienced lifters and some less experienced lifters, and like with the less experienced lifters, like the first thing I say is, you know, our first meet, I don't want you to worry about your weight. I want you to go in, have fun, hit the numbers we're supposed to hit, and then, you know, kind of develop your experience there. Because I think a lot of people see, and you know, I'm against social media and the terms of sense of like toxicity. A lot of people see like these high level athletes going in, starting the water cut, you know, 4 days out, cutting 18 pounds, you know, and winning a national championship, and they see that and they're like, this is what I got to do. This is it. And it's like, it's not, because it's not enjoyable. The people around you don't enjoy it, you know. It's just, ultimately, it's not worth it, especially if you're, you know, wagering for, you know, 18th place in a weight class, versus,
You could get
17th place in a weight class. It's like, is it worth the time and energy that you're going to put towards, peeing 100 times a day, or would you rather just, like you said, like Raphael, enjoy, go in and have a killer meet, like, and that's I think that's a big thing. I wish more newer lifters would take into account, is that this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
If you see yourself saying, "Oh, we got to meet in 2 weeks," it means I got to start eating 800 calories a day. Like, stop. Do not do that.
Yeah.
Is the Wilks points you're going to gain from losing weight, going to be more than what you would hit if you were at a higher weight?
Classic model.
And
there's literally no benefit. No one's making money. No one is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for that sweet shredded six pack.
Yeah.
Lift more weight.
Lift more weight. Exactly.
Get 6 packs. Lift more weight.
I think that is all the questions we have for the training. Is there any other topics we should cover? As far as
we're like 30 minutes. We can call it here, and we'll do more. We'll do more podcasts. Come back for more.
29 minutes and 43 seconds.
That's perfect.
Link in the description below to all of our accounts on Instagram, Twitter,
Twitter,
Brazzers, all the other sites that we are affiliated with.
TeamGPT.com.
TeamGPT.com.
That's got it.
You're a coach on there.
I'm a coach on there.
Are we on iTunes now?
We're on iTunes.
Get the podcast on iTunes.
Get the podcast on iTunes.
Only took fucking 15
Patreon,
episodes.
SoundCloud.
What's the third one you used?
We're not on Patreon.
Patreon. No, it's not. It's like a page.
We're on Audible
We're on
if you want to
SoundCloud.
read us.
We're on
We're on SoundCloud, yeah.
We're on SoundCloud.
Are we really?
Yeah. We're on SoundCloud, dude.
That's nice.
I mean, yeah, of course.
Under my rap name, Lean Cuisine.
Oh.
And that's where we end it.
Yeah, let's cut that one.
Thank you so much for listening. To send in questions, DM me on Instagram at Syed_likes_stuff. Follow the gym on Instagram at Team GPT. For more information about the gym, visit GleasonPerformance.com and join the team. For online coaching, go to TeamGPT.com.